Hello everybody, I want to go over a few things about my setup. I have a lot of questions about it. So a lot of people, this screen, it looks like it's kind of like a Mac, but it's not a Mac. It's just a Mac skin for Ubuntu 16.04. So let's just go over my CPU and some of my motherboard stuff. So as you see here, I'm running the AMD FX 6300. Its core speed is 3.5. Now I had Ubuntu lock it at 3.5, so it's running 3.5 regardless. Usually it's on demand. So if I let's look at my system and monitor, and let's just bring this over here. So as you can see, right here is the actual, and then here's my CPU usage. So these are all 6 of the FX 6300 cores and how they're running. It's high now because I'm using OBS, and OBS uses a ton of CPU, even on Windows. So I have 6 cores, and it shows all 6 of them here. Here's core number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And my motherboard is the Asus M5A97 R2.0, which the difference between this, there's also an LE model. The difference between this and the LE is that I have heat sinks on my voltage modulation regulators, so I can actually overclock mine. Memory, I have 8 gigs of RAM, and as you can see over here, it's showing I'm using 1.4 gigs, which is far less than what you'd be using on Windows. So Windows, I think, is about 2 gigs, 3 gigs minimum of usage, even when it's just sitting there. So I'm only using 1.4, and a lot of that is from using OBS. System, I am running Ubuntu 16.04. It's right here. I haven't turned my computer off in about 15 hours. It's got the 4.4 Linux kernel. It says 3840 by 1080. It's only because I have 2 monitors. So if I bring OBS over here, see OBS over here. It's like, so OBS is running on my second monitor. Graphics, I'm running the GTX 750 Ti from Nvidia, and I don't know if it's going to tell you who makes it here. Nope, just Nvidia Corporation. Then disks here, I have my primary disk here, which is a 240 gig Crucial SSD, of which only 23 gigs is actually used by the what I have installed on the OS right now, which is mostly web development stuff and PC dev. I'll show you. It's just if I go in the files, I've had the Android SDK and everything on there, a bunch of stuff for Cordova for making Android apps, and some Python applications, and some virtual boxes for running Vagrant and stuff like that in. Now most of my games are on my secondary drive over here. So I have Xplane, Xplane-10, Xplane-10 stuff, some of my son's stuff, my YouTube videos, which are here. So, and that's a 1 terabyte drive, which is here. So I try to keep my computer organized. Now, so we'll go back to the processor here. Now I had to set this to 3.5 gigahertz by disabling. I can't remember what it was that I had to download. Actually, I installed it through the terminal, but it disables the on-demand function for your processors and lets you set it to performance, which on Ubuntu, the performance max frequency for performance is 3.5 gigahertz, so 3.5 megahertz, meaning 3,500 megahertz. Let's go into the Nvidia. I don't get the full Nvidia thing that Windows users get, so this is what I get. It's showing both my monitors. I have 2 different monitors, and it's on my GTX 750 Ti, 2 gigs. I'm using, even right now, I'm using 21% of my GPU, only because OBS is running. OBS takes up so much resources. Even like when I record Xplane-11 videos, I'll get frame stutters Like you'll see the frame, and it'll just like skip a frame or something like that. And that's because OBS is using like 30% of my CPU. And that you don't have a lot of headroom with the AMD FX 6300 anyways. So as you can see, just recording here, I have, my number one CPU is running 30. Most of them are running 30. So you can see my GPU is at 33 degrees centigrade. And I have it set for auto. Now, there's a way that you can go in here, I can set it to prefer maximum performance, so it'll run you can see the difference here when I switch to auto. You immediately saw the graphics clock go up to 940, from 941 megahertz here to 1176 megahertz. And then you should be able to see it, but I've never been able to see it. And I have a 23-inch monitor and a 27-inch monitor, which is what you're seeing here. Now, application profiles, I'm trying to figure out how, you should be able to add. I thought this was able to, you go in here and add Xplane-10 or Xplane-11, and it doesn't. It's not like the Windows one. So I'm just going ahead and quit here. But yeah, so I'm running the AMD FX 3500, the graphics GTX 750. And that's about it. Now, there are some, it's not all hunky-dory, if you want to say, about running Linux and running Xplane and trying to record. Like, I have to jerry-rig it, so I have to start Xplane-11 first and actually be inside the plane, sitting on the ramp or on the runway. And then I have to start OBS, and then I have to start recording. I can't load I can't have OBS running at all and then try to start Xplane because OBS will just crash. So there's a lot of bugs running kind of with Linux. With Xplane-10, I did have to download a few libraries, secondary libraries, like some library files using the terminal. But other than that, that's pretty much my setup. And just stay tuned. I will be making more VFR videos. I do have one caveat. A lot of people have been asking me about the AMD processors, the R9s, the R8s, specifically the R9 280 and the R9 290. From what I've read online, Xplane-11 really doesn't like those two cards, the R9 280 and R9 290. For the longest time, all I ran on my computer was an AMD GPU. I'm a huge fan of the AMD CPUs, but I switched when I bought this 750 Ti because I had a 7700 AMD HD 7700, and it went out finally after I had it for like 4 years. And then I decided to go out and just, I needed it right now. I needed a graphics card right now, so I went out and bought the GTX 750 Ti, and I've had it ever since. It's been almost 3 years now. So in the next one I'll get, I'll probably just buy like a used GTX 770 or something like that. I'm not on I'm on Linux, so I'm not really on I can't play really cutting edge games on Linux. Oh, well, I can, but I'm limited to what I can play by Steam. So, people don't want to make games for Linux. I'm hoping now that the Vulkan API is out and that because it's cross-platform with Android, Mac, Linux, Windows, that more games will be made on using the Vulkan API as opposed to DirectX, which are what most Windows games are made out of. I used making DirectX, except for Xplane. Xplane runs on OpenGL, and OpenGL is cross-platform. So I'm going to try to find out more information on the AMD cards and see how it can help you guys, and watch for another video on that. But until then, thanks for watching.